6 years after the original film, Frozen 2 has finally arrived in theaters. But do the new songs work as well as the old ones? Are the new characters worth falling in love with? Does Olaf still love warm hugs? Here's a spoiler-filled look at the 5 best and 5 worst things in Frozen 2. Frozen launched into the stratosphere as one of the biggest family films ever in 2013 for a number of reasons, but one of the most important was its centerpiece song, Let It Go, which any parent can no doubt recite from bitter memory. But while there are certainly attempts in Frozen 2 to recapture some of that Let It Go magic, even the planned showstopper Into the Unknown doesn't quite reach those heights. It was a tall order to be sure, but the film can't quite rise to it. Still, if you don't compare the songs to Let It Go, there are joys to be found, especially in Kristoff's goofy power ballad Lost in the Woods, which gives Broadway star turned Disney darling Jonathan Groff a chance to do his best REO Speedwagon impression. Add in a chorus of reindeer backup singers, and it's the most pleasant surprise in the film. The Frozen films might be for kids of all ages, but they're also inventive fantasy adventures that employ their own rich sense of mythology, magic, and world building. It's a lot of backstory for kids to understand, so how does Frozen 2 address this? Have Olaf stop everything to give the new characters what's essentially a recap of the first film. There's nothing here that Michael Pena didn't do much better in the Ant-Man films over in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Unlike those movies, though, in Frozen 2, it just stops the story dead in its tracks for an exposition-heavy nostalgia slog. There had to be a better way to do this. The first Frozen featured some beautiful animation, so how could Frozen 2 hope to top it? Directors Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee made the somewhat gutsy decision to get the lead characters out of the familiar confines of Arendelle and winter, bringing them to a magic forest stuck in perpetual autumn. That unlocks a new visual creativeness. From Elsa's battle against the ocean itself to her fight against the fire salamander, Frozen 2 is absolutely stunning to look at throughout. It's been 6 years since Frozen hit theaters, but as the characters helpfully tell us in the sequel, only 3 years have passed in the realm of Arendelle since the last time we saw Anna, Elsa, Olaf, and Kristoff, and absolutely nothing whatsoever seems to have happened in that time. Everyone's basically in the exact same place they were when the last film left them, and considering how complex much of Frozen's storytelling is, that feels like a misstep. The static nature of the characters at the start of the movie feels particularly jarring, considering Frozen 2 is actually about growing up and becoming different people. Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, and even Olaf all wrestle with the reality of growing up, and possibly growing apart. That's just one of the mature themes Frozen 2 touches on. The sequel explores the nature of legacy, the sins of the past, and the ways in which we can redeem each other through deliberate attempts to heal old divisions. The plot doesn't always work, and younger viewers might not understand the themes, but Frozen 2 doesn't lack ambition. It's trying to say something, and that's saying something. Disney has a long history of introducing memorable new characters in sequels to keep things fresh. Toy Story, for instance, has Jessie, Bullseye, and Forky, just to name a few. But while Frozen 2 introduces some new characters, none of them seem particularly interesting or important to the story. Even the film itself doesn't seem very interested in the characters, introducing them only to pretty much write them out in the next scene. If you can remember the names of any of the Arendelle soldiers or the Northuldra people by the end of the film, it will be a miracle. A big reason Frozen worked, particularly with adults, was the chemistry of the cast. And thankfully, 6 years of waiting did nothing to diminish the voice cast's tremendous rapport with one another on screen. Kristen Bell, Idina Menzel, Josh Gad, and Jonathan Groff can all still fire jokes off each other with incredible precision, whether they're diving into Anna and Kristoff's awkwardness or Olaf's curiosity. Even beyond that, though, there's a certain emotional honesty at play in their performances, particularly between Bell and Menzel, that makes everything land. It's nice to see that the magic of the cast didn't fade at all in the intervening years. Olaf's recaps aren't the only bit of clumsy exposition in the movie. Frozen 2 seems so intent on getting started that they kinda botched the setup. After a short flashback with Anna and Elsa's parents telling a bedtime story that serves as a massive plot dump, we segue right into Elsa hearing voices, magically activating all the elements, and nearly blowing up the city in a rushed sequence that feels fairly incoherent. By the end of the film, the beginning finally makes sense, which is great for an experimental film like Memento, but not so great for a kids' movie. At one point in the film, Olaf rather offhandedly remarks that water has memory. That turns out to be an important line though, as it sets up a key part of the Frozen 2 mythos. It turns out that water does have memory, which means ice can hold memory, allowing Elsa to become a kind of memory summoner and keeper. This all culminates in one of the film's most visually gorgeous sequences in the ice cave, as Elsa learns the whole truth about Arendelle's dark past. It's a great example of something that starts off simple, being expounded on in a really compelling way. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite films are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.